The cancellation policy. It's pretty, simple and straight to the point, but a cancellation policy, making sure that your cancellation policy is the way that you want it, is so important. So we're just going to go over some of the cancellation policies that Airbnb offers. Which cancellation policy, I guess, is best for who? Meaning a host or a guest?
There's really only like 2 cancellation policies. Most of them are pretty much the same. They're just in like really confusing wording, and like we just want to unconfuse you guys and kind of read through them, and so that we can kind of summarize it for you and help you find the best cancellation policy for you. So let's start with the first one. Flexible is best for a traveler. Everyone wants a flexible cancellation policy, which essentially means that guests can cancel within 24 hours of the check-in and receive a full refund. So it really doesn't matter why you cancel or for what reason. It could just be you couldn't pay. It could be anything. And if it's done at least 24 hours before check-in, this guest will get a full refund. So for guests, this is a great policy.
The ideal policy that a guest would want is a flexible cancellation policy, but the reality of it is, for a host on the other side of things, there's no reassurance that the guest will do what they say they're going to do, and our money also isn't guaranteed, because anything could happen. It's really anything could happen before the day before check-in, and that all that money is gone.
So, for instance, if someone has booked your place for a month and a half, and 24 hours before that big reservation comes, and say they've been booked for 3 months, so your calendar's been blocked off for 3 months for this guest, it's going to be really hard to recuperate that money or get the same type of reservation. So let's explain moderate. So moderate reads, guests can cancel until 5 days before check-in for a full refund, and you won't be paid if they cancel after that. So basically, this guest can, instead of 24 hours before check-in, they can cancel within 5 days of check-in and they'll receive a full refund. So it's not a flexible, but it's not a strict, so it's in the middle.
The other thing is, if they cancel after they check in, then you'll be paid for the nights that they stay, plus an additional night, 50% of the total reservation. So not the full reservation, but just half of whatever nights that they didn't cancel. That only applies to, I believe, 30 days. Airbnb only collects 30 days, the 30-day amount from a guest. They don't collect more than 30 days.
Now we're going to get into the cancellation policies as hosts that we do suggest. So to receive a full refund, guests must cancel at least 30 days before check-in. So the guest gets a month before their check-in date to be like, oh, for some reason something came up, I can't make it. And that's great. That gives you a lot of time to recuperate a reservation if something were to happen. If they cancel between 7 and 30 days before check-in, you'll be paid 50% for all nights. If they cancel less than 7 days before check-in, you'll be paid 100% for all nights. Guests can also receive a full refund if they cancel within 48 hours of booking if a cancellation occurs at least 14 days before check-in. Guests must cancel within 30 days to get a full refund. If they cancel less than 30 days, so if they cancel within that 30 days, they'll get 50% refund. If they cancel 7 days before check-in, they don't get a refund at all. So I like this cancellation policy a lot. It gives me time to make up for the lost reservation if something were to happen. And it also is a common ground for guests and hosts to find a comfortable ground for their reservation where at least they're going to get some money back if something were to happen.
Yeah.
So next is strict. To receive a full refund, guests must cancel within 48 hours of booking. If they book 6 months out or 14 days out, you have 48 hours to cancel that reservation from the time you booked it.
All of these cancellation policies are available for all hosts as well as all guests to see on the Airbnb site or the Airbnb, whatever Airbnb listing that you are making your reservation for. The other thing about this is by default, all listings automatically go to a flexible cancellation policy. So if you have never gone in and changed your cancellation policy, I would make sure that you go in and see what policy you have on your listing. And if it's a brand new listing, I'm telling you now that it's already on flexible. So if that's not something that you're comfortable with, make sure you go in and check it.
So as far as the policy goes, as far as fair in both perspectives, what would you say would be the best policy for both parties?
Well, so we talked about earlier that by default, Airbnb gives the flexible cancellation policy. And that's because who doesn't love the flexibility to kind of change their mind and not have, repercussions? That's great. For a host, I think I'd be the most comfortable with a strict cancellation policy, just because I know, if something is going to happen, the guest knows what they're doing, the guest knows what they're getting into, and if they need to make a change, they'll do it sooner than later. They're not going to draw it out and wait until the very last minute. But for kind of a middle ground, firm is like the middle area where it's fair, I think, for both sides, where the host feels comfortable, and if anything was to come up last minute, there are exceptions. You don't have to go by the cancellation policy. You can, by all means, provide any kind of refund that you would like to your guests, but This is what is automatically in place so that you don't have to come up with it on your own.
Right.
And then you kind of have to be more sure that you're comfortable with this, or that's a good size window to decide whether or not you want to keep your reservation or not. It was 14 days, right? Before 14 days, if you cancel before 14 days, then you'll receive a full refund. I think that's a good amount of time for you to decide if you're gonna make that trip or not. So I'd say firm. Again, it's the policy that we use on all of our listings. It works very smoothly for us. So firm, I think, is the way to play, is the cancellation policy to play fair on Airbnb. We hope that all the information that we just went over was helpful. We talk about this often, but our challenge is a great place to get some upper level tips for hosting an Airbnb, some things that you may not have heard before. I would suggest that if you hadn't been on a challenge with Jim, I'm telling you, you get to spend 4 days with Jim live. It's not going to do anything else but benefit you. So if you haven't been to a challenge, I'd suggest that you sign up and reserve your seat now. You don't want to miss it. We'll put a link in the comments section.
We'll see you then. Have a great night.
Good night. God bless you all.